Well, hello there, everybody. How are y'all doing? It is Prosperity Monday. I hope you're doing well and that you are where you are supposed to be, fulfilling your destiny. Isn't that what all of us want to do? Welcome, everybody. Thank you for, dropping in, tuning in, adding to the magic. Hello, chat room, and all the beautiful folks, moderators, the rest of the demigods. And that's something. So if you're like a moderator, you're this demigod. Welcome, everyone. So good to see you. Speaking favor over us all, nothing missing, nothing broken, and that you are living each day to its fullest. We only have so many. So, and it's odd, isn't it? I'm going to be doing a show with Judith, Night Flight Radio, and going to have her on. And on Wednesday, we'll have Barbara DeLong on. Excited. I mean, we had a chance to connect and realize that, like 9 years ago, maybe 10, been a long time. So, a lot of exciting things happening in her life, and um, maybe she'll do a reading or two. Got a new app on her cards as well. So anyway, how is everybody? Trust you are doing so well. Hello, Stephen, James, Jargo, DC, Emperor X, Loretta, Goddess Sabina, Bernadette, how you doing? Robert Scott, much love to you, brother. How you doing? Hello, Stephanie Marie. Good to see you. I think I saw Deborah in there earlier. Sloan, how are you doing, my dear? Lori, good to see you. So, did you have a good weekend? Got to tell you what, the freaking weather here. Talk to people who have lived here all their lives, like 70 years, said they've never seen anything like this. It has been absolutely delightful. Um, it's like the Three Bears. It's not too warm, it's not too cold. It's just right. Phenomenal weather. Animals are digging it, you know. Had the mama deer bring in the little spotted fawn. That was cool. Had two, I think they're pups. I don't know. Could be wrong. They could be kits. Raccoons. And I mean, they're just as cute. They're about that big. Mama obviously have sent them on their own, or mama was killed or something, but we've named them Heckle and Jekyll. So anyway, that's what it's like in our world. So Rick, how you doing, brother? Good to see you. What else? S. Lee, how you doing? Got your email, brother? We'll be getting back in touch with you. Had to take the our car in for a recall part. So always fun to sit in a lobby full of strangers that you don't know, because you're there for, one purpose or reason. And if you do this thing right, it's like you kind of tune in, it's like, yeah, everyone has a different story. That's what's so freaking cool about it. It's like everybody. So, let me get rid of that real quick. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hey, Steiger, you're looking good, dude. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Y'all looking. Hey, did y'all see Gilbert had a birthday yesterday? Gilbert's been long lived. What a that's all I can say. You can say a blessing, um, a found treasure. I mean, when you make friendships and they're found treasures. And, as I was said, we only have so many days in this realm. Whether this is the death realm or not, remains to be seen, but nevertheless, we get to meet a lot of others. Yeah. So anyway, hello, Brenda. Good to see you, my dear. Street Mom. So good. Bonnie, what's up? So, Jargo, good to see you as well. Lost in Space, what's up? Just saw that, Chris. Good to see you. My question is, why do people always say, don't think? Think about it, right? It's interesting. I mean, do we have original thought? It's a real question. And then appreciate all the comments on the little video yesterday, because that has been a, and I mean, it's, when you go to get quiet, you got that thought. And the thought is that, are there demigods? Yeah, I think there are. I think there are demigods among us here. And the whole aspect of, because this gets even into religion, definitely heavy in the philosophy, dare I say, as well as into the psychology of that mortals. Are all of us mere mortals? And here's a question. How would you know if you met a demigod? I mean, do they have a card saying, yeah, here you go, Demigod Incorporated? I think about that. So, how would you know? What does a demigod look like? In my years where I am now, I realize I always question this. That that's you. It's that voice that says, hey, listen, you're in this reality. Understand you won't stay in this reality. It's that voice guiding you. That's like, what does God look like? Of all the religions that I've studied, it's really interesting the image that they portray of what God is. And then I wonder, well, things are so messed up here. I mean, if you're a God and you want to take credit for that, okay, I can dig that. But then that would imply that you may be immortal. Question on what really is immortality. And if we're spirits, aren't we immortal already? I wonder. Such contradicting philosophies and ideologies and religion, because if God screwed things up, well, then that doesn't mean that this God is perfect, right? And then I guess you could take a certain point of view that, well, maybe God is a demigod. Maybe this mortal became a hybrid, not mortal all the way, not immortal, in between. And what if it says, I want to make it though everyone thinks that I did all this, and I'm going to hide all the others? It's interesting. I mean, if you read the Bible stories, full of demigods. My God, they're demigods. They're everywhere. This is all tied into reincarnation. And we haven't forgotten the book of Enoch. Just taking a little side trip because it's quite interesting. Because in the book of Enoch, it's very clear that there are demigods. And here's the thought. And this is what got me off onto this, or whatever the heck happened. It's like telegram, Mr. Steiger, that, okay, the story of these fallen angels, aliens, ETs, Whatever. All right. So they brought their shit and they put their shit into ours. And wait a minute. If that's true, then would the angels, quote unquote, would they be immortals? I mean, what are they? They ain't human. But in any case, no matter how you want to slice it and dice it with the Slice-O-Matic 2000, um, something wrong. Because if they did what they did, then that means we're all demigods. Hmm. Think about that. Excuse me. So factor that into the equation. Now, allow me for a second here as I pull this up because I want to go through a slight list of demigods, some that you would probably even recognize. And by the way, I did Trump. That's cool. You know, so I'm going to talk about a couple of others. How about this cat? I mean, this guy was a freaking genius. And he was, for a while, they say one of the richest men ever. I don't know, Rockefellers, Rothschilds. But what we do know is that apparently he failed in his test. You think about the end of his life, what he became, that ain't normal. And if you look at the personality change that took place in this man, once strikingly handsome guy, film, aviation. I mean, he was like the modern day Elon Musk. And crazy contraptions. Nothing, he had no limitations in whatever he wanted to do. And that's the thing, as I said yesterday, excuse me, that the thing about demigods, they're really many times surrounded by wealth. And we're going to get into some list because when you start looking at this from a multi-perspective point of view, wow. So I don't know. Everyone has their opinion, but Howard Hughes was, uh, I remember growing up, I admired this guy. In the Houston area, he was all over energy, you know, Hughes Tools. Um, how about this guy? This guy was a true, I believe if he was a mortal, he is now either a full-fledged demigod, if not reached immortality. For many of you who don't know who this is Audie Murphy. His story, To Hell and Back, was put into a movie in which he starred in. He was the most highly decorated soldier ever. His bravery defied defied the gods, even when he was in the midst of what would have to be just miraculous that circumstances where his comrades were being mowed down. This guy here did some things that were just incredible. And truly, I would say that he is a demigod. Audie Murphy. If you never read his story or ever seen the movie, go watch it. There's something about when the gods either have favor, whatever you want to say it, upon a mortal, even a demigod. It kind of gives you a boost. This guy, I mean, his heroics, leadership, um, General George S. Patton. And the interesting thing about war uh, is that in war, the theater of war, it's when mere mortals become demigods. All mortals can become a demigod. This man, you read his story, it's remarkable. Again, it's that individual, that mortal, that hybrid that comes into the scene. And if reincarnation is true, then it seems that these demigods may either do this by choice, or who knows, maybe they're stuck like we are. I mean, we are all stuck, that they come back into history. I mean, Patton was just a remarkable man in himself. And when I think of a demigod, this is where I really focus in. I mean, this is the Greek pantheon. This is the Roman hierarchy. Patton believed in reincarnation. He believed in destiny. He believed that a mere mortal can become a god. He also believed as well is that there was this thing, this special anointing that is upon certain people at certain times in history. Again, what would a demigod look like? I think we would know more by their actions and their positions in what they have achieved. And there are many of them, some that may not are even known. Uh, this guy, I mean, you think about it. General MacArthur, again, bravado man that was he was immortal. And when they were in battle, they were truly showed that they were immortal. Being in positions of where death should be what would happen to them never did. I mean, and again, it's remarkable. I always think of Jackie Kennedy, Jackie Onassis. She was a demigod, no doubt about it. And there's others like her. But these are just a few that I wanted to bring out. How about this guy? I believe he is a demigod. He has, he'll be, yeah, I think he's 81. Um, but you would never know it. He has something that the immortals have, the gods. Just remarkable. And you think about particularly the worship that Mick Jagger has received for decades. Any god would be envious of that. And Mick is hip to it. He knows that this is special and what have you. And he's just a remarkable individual. Keith Richards is one as well. You know, and Ronnie Woods. I mean, but anyway, Mick Jagger, demigod, no doubt about it. How about this guy? And let me tell you what, say what you will about Tiger Woods, I was one of those adoring fans sitting there um, watching what a god would play like. Now, there are different kinds and different levels and intensities of what demigods can do and can't do. But no doubt, what this demigod displayed at his prime was remarkable. And what a pleasure it was to witness that as a spectator through the eyes and the lens of the collective consciousness we would call a camera. Yeah. How about this guy? You read this dude's profile, he's achieved demigod status. Interesting that Jeff Bezos has a keen awareness of the difference between a mortal and an immortal. And look at what happens when you begin to think about the wealth that comes with these demigods. And I could get into the European bloodlines because bloodlines play a heavy role in this. And it seems that reincarnation, it is one of those questions that I ask that, well, if I am of a certain bloodline, and I know I'm a demigod, and I understand that there is these moments in which we come into this mortal world, but when they come back into their bloodline. And they are titans. That's what we call them today. And the financial wealth and influence is beyond the grasp and the imagination of what I would say the common person. Demigod, Jeff Bezos. How about this guy? This guy's gotten spooky. I got to see this guy, Bill Gates. Now, I saw him in the late 90s and was quite mesmerized by his mind. It was really very heir apparent. And the same thing with Steve Jobs. I had the pleasure of actually meeting Steve Jobs. But they were rarefied air, intense visionaries. And you just knew that there was something about them that the average person didn't possess. And look at where this guy's gone now. I mean, you know, the dark side of the equation comes into the picture. And was that the case? But a demigod, and this cat gets it, man. He really does. Um, the stuff that he's involved in, come on. That is what a demigod does. You know, these demigods, they get where they think that they can begin to inject themselves into the actual uh, coalescence of life on this plane of existence and seeking to extend that bridge over into that other realm. I mean, I could just go on and on with the list. How about this guy? By all the beliefs, this is a true demigod. And what my point is this is that demigods die. They die in this realm. But they die only on a certain level. It's actually it's a very superficial level. I mean, think of the influence that this guy, whether he lived or didn't, is not really in the matter. The point is that the influence of this demigod, very powerful. Buddha could be put into that same position. But that was just a small sample. And it really becomes down to what one is taught as their perspective of reality. Amazing how many people pray, but if you ask them to whom and what they're praying to, it would be different with every person. That would indicate that then is a monotheistic God just a higher level demigod? And that demigods can reach a status of immortality on these existential planes? I think so. I mean, and that was just a small sampling. If you go and do a search on this, you find out that the list of demigods are like freaking goes on, and every culture, every country, and every continent, they're there. And so it's very plain that they live again here today, just on different levels. So I began to look at this from, all right, so if wealth is that standard, what would go with wealth? Well, typically it would be an IQ, right? And then we're going to look at this from, you combine those two with, this thing called religion, spirituality. And folks, it becomes very apparent if you begin to recognize what a demigod is. So allow me to start with wealth, because you got to have the cash, man. If you ain't got the cash, it's going to be, not to say you can't achieve these levels. You can't. But boy, if you got the wealth, and the thing about it is, if you got the wealth, you really don't need to get dirty, like into politics or, that other stuff. No, you got wealth. But wealth is never quite enough, is it? No. So, this is as of July 21st, 2004, Bloomberg's list of the most wealthiest. Shall we just peruse? So as you can see on the chart, we have the name, their ranking, their net worth, how much money they've made so far year to date, how much money, etc., they've lost, what country, in what business sector. Elon Musk, $257 billion. Wow. Lost a little bit, but overall for the year, he ain't doing too bad. He's made about $28.1 billion in 7 months. Yeah. Bezos, talked about him. Technology. Bernard Arnault, France, he took a hit. He was at one time on Forbes #1 as the wealthiest. And you can see that he's taken a hit too. But anyway, he's in consumer. And if you're going into a recession or high hyperinflation, consumer goods become an issue. There's Mark Zuckerberg, 170 billion. Now, these numbers are astronomical. But it goes to show you what demigods can do. And it inspires the rest of us demigods or mere mortals to saying, yeah. And there's a lot to it behind there. But anyway, there's Bill Gates. He's doing really good. There's Larry Page, Google, Amazing how these net worths are pretty there. In the technologies look sector, look at these gods. And it's almost one that I did a video on this, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, where I showed all of the technology, where it came from and who the men were. And you can begin to see that, as I said, this can't be just mere coincidence that these people are born in such a defined time period, and they come in and they're a part of this creation, this new thing, and it's amazing technology. There's Sergey, with founder of Google, Steve Ballmer, Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison is with Intel. Warren Buffett, as you can see, there's Michael Dell. Um, when I lived in Austin and was into the scene back then, it was pretty cool. Michael Dell was a really cool guy, and if you had his stock, you did exceptionally well. But anyway, these are all the demigods of the world. Their money is remarkable. And as you can see, even if you're a billionaire, there is a definite hierarchy. I mean, if you just have a mere 40 billion, well, you're not going to be able to play with the guys that got, 200 billion. You know, but you definitely can play above all those below 40 billion. And there is a lot. Amazing what we have today, that no time in history. And it's odd that, it's almost like these demigods know something. I mean, is there something on a cosmic level that's about to change where you will never have the experience of being a billionaire in a world, having anything your heart desires? Just depends on how much power do you have. And in this case, $1 billion is a lot of power, but $1 billion in this circle, man, it barely gets you into the front door. You're certainly going to have to wait for a table. But in any case, there we go. Just thought you'd like to see that. So, having said that, let me pull up the next one here. So, what would be the next thing that we should look at? Well, if I've got wealth, okay, that's one thing. But do I have wealth in what would be called in other areas that could generate far more than me if that's where they wanted to go? Now, that's a different level of power. And by this, folks, what I mean is mental acuity, IQ. So I pulled up a list that I thought, well, this is really interesting, because I doubt many people would ever seriously look in this particular direction. And so I wanted to come in and get the top 50 highest IQs of humanity. Because if you have this mental power, you really, in one way, don't need money, because you have something that those with money would very much be envious to have more of. You've got intelligence. So I just wanted to go through some of the smartest people. This is Young Hoon Kim. His IQ is 276. He is from South Korea, and currently has the highest IQ score in the world. Yeah. A lot of these people I had never even heard of. This is Marin Kozer. IQ 268, musical prodigy. Was tested as a child. He reportedly earned a projected IQ score of 268. He began studying, playing, and composing music around the age of 3 and never looked back. Immenseful, powerful minds. I dare say that they live in a plane of existence that is very much a part of this one, but yeah. You think they would walk with the other gods? Or if you're monotheistic in view, God. Apparently, God walks with mortals. God makes mortals immortal. Same thing. Because how, and even if you want to say a demigod, I mean, a true immortal, how would they communicate with us? Do they would come down to our level? And I would say someone with an IQ of over 260 would probably be able to communicate in ways that out of reach for most people. All right. This is Anning Colley, IQ score of 263. Reincarnated? Demigod? Huh. Born in Singaporean mother and an Irish father. Um, Former child prodigy. Now 24, grew up in the public eye in addition to having an IQ score reported at 263. Colley is considered an omnibus prodigy, which is someone with talent spanning multiple fields. When he was 8 years old, his father described him as a scientist, mathematician, computer programmer, self-taught pianist and composer, film score composer, film writer, director, and editor in a British television documentary. Says he began to study chemistry at Singapore's Polytechnic that same year, and he wasn't even 10 years old. Yeah, demigod. William Sedis, IQ score 250 to 300. Wow. Says it may this name sadist may not ring a bell, but for many who have drawn parallels between him and Matt Damien's character in the movie Good Will Hunting. Real life, Sedis enrolled at Harvard University at the age of 11 and graduated at 16. According to his sister Helena, Sedis took an IQ test administered by a psychologist a few years before he was his untimely death from a stroke at the age of 46. The psychologist had never seen scores that high before. She examined and said they were between 250 and 300. And I could just go through here's Terrence Towell, 225 to 230. Marilyn Voss Savant, IQ 228. In September 1956, when Marilyn Vossavant was 10 years old, an adult level Stanford Binet test revealed she had an IQ of 228 and a corresponding mental age of 22 and 11 months. Roughly 30 years later, she was listed as Guinness's Book of World Records under highest IQ for both childhood and adult scores for 5 years. Wow. She began answering questions on topics including philosophy and mathematics, health, lifestyle, and science for parade readers in her Ask Marilyn column. Christopher Harada, IQ 225. John Wolfgang von Goethe, IQ 210, 225. Kim Young Jong, IQ 210, South Korea. William Shakespeare, I thought this was interesting. IQ 210. And I'm thinking to myself, so here's a conspiracy theory. It is thought that William Shakespeare is actually Francis Bacon. Now, Francis Bacon plays a major role in the formation of modern day Protestantism. Now, it is said that Bacon and Shakespeare lived at the same time. Now, if William Shakespeare had an IQ of 210, he was a giant in the day, would be a giant today as well, but even more so. And the conspiracy theory is that this guy, under direction of the king, King Henry, basically created a mind spell, created a play in the modern text of how it was rewritten, which is the King James Bible. Because it was Francis Bacon that got a hold of the original manuscript that King James's court, of all his scribes and learned scholars, in their project of, because they weren't going to have that Latin thing, the thing with the Catholics. No, no, no. No, that wasn't going to happen. And so they rewrote this thing. Or the theory is, or the thought is, the conspiracy theory on this is that it was Bacon because James, King James, gave it to Bacon to go through, to edit, etc., etc. Now, if Bacon and Shakespeare were one and the same, well, imagine how you would write it. Anyway, there's the thought. I digress. So, as we continue, Edith Stern, IQ 200 plus, it goes on. And again, these individuals, where it's not the money, that their IQ will get them that. They'll most likely never want for anything. But it's just remarkable. Nathan Leopold, people that I look back in history that was like, wow. Thomas Woosley, IQ 200. And it's just fun when you go through all this because you see how much these demigods influenced reality. That is a true sign of a demigod. As I said, I think there are many here among us. I mean, think about it. If you do a program, and now we have this mediumship, where we come out and do podcast, to a small degree, no matter how small that degree may be, you're still influencing to a degree reality. That would be, to me, a sure sign. So the last part of this, and get me as I go over here, is this one. So we've talked about those who have money, how they came about it, talked about the next level of a group of demigods, individual humans with these exceptionally high IQ scores. Now, I think there should be a second category. There should be a spiritual quotient, because it's very obvious that there are many mortals that are either becoming demigods or, in fact, full-fledged demigods. No matter where you put them, they seem to gravitate towards certain circles. Now, certain circles have the ability that you don't need to be so much a titan of business, a genius, but you got something else, the spiritual quotient. which can be very influential. Every leader has spiritual advisors. Now, if you're a demigod looking for influence in a level that you can have input into creating a reality, and when you're living under a government, you're living under a created reality of some kind, and that you would have an influence on said creating of said reality. So I pulled up this list and I thought, how interesting. So this is a list of the top religious leaders of the world. And baby, this God thing been very, very good. I'm talking private jets. I'm talking mansions. I'm talking fancy cars. Because God loves me. Y'all hear this? Now, since I'm giving you this message that God gave me, I need you to write me a check because that's the right, proper thing, and God would look very favorable upon you. You see this? I mean, yeah, I could have gone down that road, but no. Anyway, Joseph Prince, uh, back in the day, very much aware of him, did a lot of work there. But again, 5 million, which, yeah, hey, it's better, than not having a million at all, right? He's with the New Creation Church, one of the largest in Asia, belongs to pastoring, host of television. Television is very lucrative. I knew Paul were at TBN, and yeah. Anyway, destined to reign. Now, if you're a positivist, that where you like and seek positive messages, if you take the rhetoric out, that's the religious thing, these cats are simply talking the same thing that you would learn from a Zig Ziglar, someone that you would learn from Napoleon Hill, Earl Nightingale. I could just go on and on. So, TD Jakes, 20 million. And if you watched any, Trinity Broadcasting, Daystar, all of them, yeah, you know who Papa Jakes are, and that's what Paula White calls them, Papa Jake. So 20 million. They're in Ohio with the mega church pastor's house. And they're into a lot of different stuff. They travel in groups. Rick Warren, been out there to his church, 25 million. Now, these numbers are a little bit out of date because it's hard to get these cats to really pull forth the numbers on this. But anyway, and a lot of these churches now have been wrecked by scandals. And you want to know what the scandal is? Sex, baby. Sex. The other thing is that they have an issue that they never don't talk about this, but your lovely host knows about this, is there is a lot of a cash that yeah, that's all I got to say. There's Creflo. He's the one that was known to tell his audience that God told him. Now, so they're channeling, right? But no one calls it channeling. That's the thing I couldn't be one many times with Kenneth Copeland was that he had heard from the Lord, that God had spoke to him, and that Jesus had given him a message. Now, just think about that. So just who exactly is talking here? We had the Lord, we had Jesus, and then we had God. But anyway, Creflo told his audience that y'all need to buy me a new jet. I believe it was a Gulfstream 5, I think. And he got his jet. Anyway, right there down in World Changers Church in Atlanta, Georgia. So, and he's also up in New York. Ray Macaulay, 29 million, South African. So it's all over the world, folks, and it keeps going up. Enoch Anabot, 39 million. A lot of these I hadn't heard before. Nigerian pastor, um, Church of God. He worked at the church as an interpreter before being ordained as a pastor. And the church has several branches in Nigeria and the rest of the world, significantly contributing to his massive earnings. Now, when I was building our mobile app for churches, nonprofits, I remember I had to go before a predominantly Black church. Pastor was very kind and saw the vision, knew exactly where it was heading, but he wanted to present this to this church. And so, guess what? I got up there and presented and explained to the audience how, and we have to remember, mobile apps weren't out there then. And yeah, so, uh, and I remember one of the deacons stood up and looked at me and said, "Sir," he says, "what gives you the right to make a profit off of God's money?" And this was an elder. It was an elder of the church. And you could have heard a pin drop in that sanctuary. And I looked at him and said, "Well, sir, God told the Israelites that in order to support the priesthood of that they were to give an offering of 10% of all of their increase." And I said, "My company only charges 2.5%." So I said, "We're even cheaper than God." That man became a strong advocate after that. It was quite something. So anyway, Benny Hinn, 40 million. Andy Stanley, 45 million. Jesse Duplantis, 50 million. Jesse is there down in New Orleans. Covenant Church. Let's see. He was introduced to TBN by John Hagee. Later became a full-time evangelist. And he is known as the funny guy. He is quite something. He's controversially asked his audience to donate money to purchase a private jet worth 54 million. Yeah, claimed he would use the jet to spread the gospel worldwide above first class. However, he already owned 3 jets by that time. How many freaking jets do you need? Despite the controversy, he's still financially benefiting from his spiritual leadership and business ventures. So, do you see how the two all work? You know, the finance guy, you know, that Forbes list, and then you got the spiritual thing. Very profitable. They said that the average pastor makes between 80 and 130,000 a year. That's a statistical average, but it's an anomaly because a lot of pastors make far less than that. And this is what so many, when I was in that world, folks, met with these people. I mean, you walk away. It contributed to me to walking away from the religion because what is being portrayed here and what is actually being done, you know, it's a pretty fucked up reality when you think about it. As I said, my tenure as a Christian taught me the occult. Let's see. I'll continue to go down the list. Here's another Nigerian, Paul Adafazine, 50 million. Hubert Angel, 60 million. Joel Osteen, 100 million. Probably could up that a little bit now. I think that one's actually a little low. I knew Joel's father, John Osteen, studied under John Osteen. But John Osteen certainly wasn't, he didn't, yeah, his son had something. And that's interesting because you had one guy that was just a former, Southern Baptist preacher where he come from, but his son got in on it and wow, flipped it to making it a very profitable enterprise. Let's see, Shepherd Bashari, 110. A lot of these guys, he's in South Africa. This guy is in Brazilian. He's a Brazilian televangelist. Ribeiro Soares, 125 million. And again, another Nigerian. I'm looking at these Nigerian preachers and I'm going, man, are we just missing something? Wow. They never have someone like me on their program because, it's like, yeah, that just isn't going to work. This is a gentleman, Valmorel, San Diego, 350 million. He's in Brazil. Kenneth Copeland. Now, I've recently read that number's probably closer to 1 billion. I think he was one of the few preachers that have actually reached billionaire status, but nevertheless, televangelists, I know I was under this spell of this guy, but listen, I'm grateful in a lot of ways because the principles that he teaches are in fact sound. I mean, if you want to make money and you want to engage the spiritual, the supernatural, it can be done. And it's not predicated on a religion. But anyway, pretty good, eh? Here is Alpha Luca Billion. He's in South Africa. And then Edro Marcidio, 1.2, and he is a Brazilian religious leader. So there you go. I'm going to tell you, folks, demigods. That's my point. Everything about this is look at what they've done. And no matter how, in the love, please leave a comment because I'd like to know what your perspective on this. I mean, ordinary people, particularly in the religious aspect of it. I mean, I could have gone down that road, folks, very easily. And I do this because I love doing it. And I've never asked anyone in this program, for a dime. Don't even monetize the channel. Why? Because I enjoy doing it. And the universe has its way of always returning that which is sown into it. But I could have done it. And it's, again, much like Mick Jagger, when you have these televangelists, when they do their crusades, people are worshiping them. Well, they won't call it, they'll call it idolizing. Same thing. Demigods. I mean, and you think about it, whether musical talent, I mean, it's there. They walk among us. And again, I contend there are many of us here. Hey, Gaia. I'm just reading some of the comments. I'll have to go back because I didn't get to see any of the comments. So, but anyway, so that is what we do here. I thought it was very interesting. And the thing with Trump, it was very interesting. And I want to say this to everybody. Remember, folks, politics is one of the highest forms of magic. It's occultism. I mean, this is not entry level. Again, the same thing on the religious aspect of it. So I brought up Trump merely because, and I know there's a lot of deep emotion. I don't want to hear that. It was just the fact that I believe that there was on display a moment again where we saw a demigod that we hadn't seen in a while. Yeah. And if you look about what's happening in our world today, I mean, folks, we are in, get ready. We are in total chaos and confusion. And we as a species don't do well. We don't operate well when there is just total chaos, and we're in it. I mean, the thing, particularly in American politics, Jenny was right. You know, we sneeze and the rest of the world gets the cold. And the world powers at B, they're looking at us, particularly in the United States, when I'm speaking of. They know that we're in deep, deep caca. And you don't say that this is the kind of stuff that the gods get involved with. I mean, there must be a rowdy time up in the ethereal realm. That's all I got to say. And it's not over. This is only the opening act. And I just said, well, why don't we just look at this from a perspective as that what if we are just dealing with mortals that have been able to transcend or enter in transition to immortality? Isn't that's what we all want to believe, right? We don't really die. We exist in some form. Yeah. All right, folks. Hope you've had fun in the discussion. Thank you. Thanks for hitting the like button and commenting. And yeah, let me know your thoughts. That's what we're here for, right? So, everybody, let's see. I have to go back and read some of the comments in it, you know. Thank you, Rick. Thank you. Appreciate that. I appreciate it very much. But anyway, so there we go. So I'm off to go and do a interview with Miss Judith Goba and over there at Night Flight Radio. I don't know when she'll have it posted, but hey, Robin, what's up? Bonnie, good to see you. Gaia, hello. Nina, what's happening? So, Chris, good to see you as well. All right, folks, we'll be on tomorrow with the ladies, Miss Trina and Miss Jenny. Got a lot to talk about, folks. I mean, it's going to get very interesting. So, hey, Jackie, right back at you, dear. Yes, Gaia. Everyone have an amazing day. Thanks, Grace. Much appreciated. As James says, be groovy. That's the only place to be. All right, much love, folks. Until we see each other again, keep